Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is To Back or Not To Back, where we're going to take a look at a variety of crowdfunding campaigns so that you can stay informed about what's out there, what you might want to get your hands on, should you back or should you not, all of that and more. As usual, we are playing catch-up over here. Don't get me wrong, we have like 15 to 20 campaigns to go over today, but I still am playing catch-up, making sure to get all these campaigns before they end, so you'll have a bunch that are ending very shortly. We will not be getting today to Lands of Evershade, Avalon, Riven Vale, Storyfold, some of the bigger campaigns that are out there we won't be getting to today, rather we'll be getting to hopefully next week on next Monday. Just trying to catch up and make sure I have all these campaigns before they end, so we have like the next 10 days or so worth of campaigns. Usually I actually try to cover them in the first, like when they launch. I just fell behind, and we'll see what we can do to get caught up right now. In any case, let's go ahead and start off. We will be starting off as usual with our Cult of the Now. Crowdfunding is always asking you to spend lots of money now to go ahead and get your hands on, well, all the games that look amazing, that are very expensive, and that you don't know what's going to play out over the next year and a half. Instead, you can go ahead and get Cult of the Now, games that are available right now at retail, and today's Cult of the Now choice is Res Arcana Duo. Res Arcana Duo currently available over our miniature market for $19.99. It says view special price and cart. I've looked in the cart. I'm telling you the special price. It's $19.99. Also, fun fact, whenever you see view special price and cart, it's not the company, it's not the store saying, ooh, we're going to try to trick you to adding it to your cart so that you're invested. Rather, it's the store working with the publisher who has a minimum advertised price, otherwise known as map pricing, where the publisher says, hey, you can't show this price at less than X, but you're allowed to show whatever price you want in the cart because that's not considered advertising, that's considered you kind of walking into the store and seeing it. Lots of technicalities. I just know once upon a time, I was always frustrated by stores that would do that until I realized it was actually publishers that were doing it, and the stores were just playing along trying to sell the games. So either way, Res Arcana Duo, if you want to check it out, $19.99, available now. Moving on, board game adjacent, we have Ava the Waterproof board game table. I won't be heavily spending a lot of time on this. We currently have 8 backers out of 10 days left to go, 15,000 euro raised currently with a 30,000 euro goal, so it may not fund, which in general when you have these small startup board game publisher, board game table publisher companies and whatnot, there's always a little bit degree of risk. I mean, you're talking about every purchase is thousands of dollars or euros. It makes sense that people want to trust their money with established companies. I should note the Ava does have, this is their second print run. They actually have already done printings of the table, so they do have that establishedness. Nonetheless, again, people are going to put their, when it's spending lots of money, people want to be very sure where they're spending the money. This does look like a very elegant table overall, especially price point wise overall. Prices ranging from €1,000 all the way up to several thousand euro. All the shipping, of course, will be around €600 if you're in the States, and possibly more or less depending on where else you are. So just take that into account as well. Overall, the table looks good from afar, looks elegant. The waterproof actually looks like it might really be waterproof. Usually I'm skeptical of waterproof claiming on tables. I find that waterproof usually means less water seeps through, not no water seeps through. The video they show does look kind of compelling, so who knows. But either way, that's the Ava the Waterproof board game table. Might fund, might not. We'll see over the next 10 days. In the cancelled and not yet funded category, we have Defenders of the Realm Legends Edition. $111,000 raised, 400 backers. This one launched over on BackKit, and then unfortunately did not have the traction they needed, and did cancel. They will be relaunching at some point. They didn't say which platform. I assume BackKit, in general, Grading the Games has been pretty staunchly on BackKit since the beginning, but we'll see what happens there. But either way, Defenders of the Realm Legends Edition is a re-implementation of Defenders of the Realm. I had a chance to play this at PAX Unplugged last year. I want to say last year. I don't think it was 2 years ago. I think it was last year. And overall, I really enjoyed what I had a chance to play, so I am excited to see this one come back, but we won't be talking about it heavily now, because it canceled, not yet funded, and we'll go ahead and check this out when it does relaunch. Moving into the actual campaigns, the new campaigns, and we have a bunch of roll rights today. I think we have like 3, maybe 4 print and play roll rights, which usually I don't show 3, maybe 4. I think we have 3 today. Either way, we have €2,596 raised, 202 backers from Roll for Rum, a smuggler's race for fame and glory and all that. There's basically 2 pledge levels over here. There's gonna be the €5. Was it euro or dollars? It was €5. €5 over here to go ahead and get your hands on the 3 basic maps for the game. So you basically have 3 basic maps. This is a roll and write. It's one of those, again, it's a very common thing we've seen in these print play roll and writes. You roll 3 dice, you assign 1 dice to 3 different areas, and you're picking and choosing how you assign your dice. I've seen this done like at least 4 or 5 times, that exact same system, probably more. Not to say it's a bad thing, lots of systems can be established. The question is how innovative and different does the rest of the game feel from there, despite using that somewhat central mechanism to roll and write, print and play roll and writes. But either way, you have these 3 dice, you can be rolling them, assign different actions, to movement, to your fame, or whatever it is. There's 3 different categories of where you're assigning the dice, and the basic pledge level is going to be €5 for 3 basic maps. The more expensive pledge level is going to be over here. We have a €12, giving you one map a month for the whole year, plus the Xmas quest growing with stretch goals. I believe there's currently 2 and on track to have 3, or is it 3? There's 3. It looks like they got all 3 of the Xmas quest maps over here since I last checked, and so that's what you're going to have for those pledge levels. As usual, as far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Print and plays, I don't talk about holding a value. I usually say the same thing every single time. If you will actually play them, they are a very, very cheap price point for playing a good game, or playing a game. I can't say if they're good or not. If you just buy them and don't play them, then hey, you're supporting the creator at least, but you're not actually getting a good value out of it if you don't play them. Moving on, we have Sweetlands advanced strategy game for to build City of Sweets. Sorry, my camera's kind of in the way there. 5,400 backers, $564,000 raised, 46 hours to go. We are coming in at the final 2 days over here. Coming to from Yuchi by, I don't know how to pronounce that, I apologize. But they've done a lot of games from Aqua Garden. They did the one that I had a chance to play that I really enjoyed was the pirate one. Oh my gosh, what was it called? It was the Rondell. Oh my gosh, it had the pirate Ostia, and then the Ostia Pirates expansion, which I really enjoyed. Sweetlands over here is going to be leaning more into the heavyweight Euro category. I've seen it compared to Terraforming Mars from several people. I've not had a chance to play this one myself, but it does look very intricate. I highly recommend checking out Board Game Rambling's coverage of it if you want a good sense of both the pros and the cons and whether it's a game that's right for you or not. A nice 20-minute video fully goes into it if you want to get a better sense of it. Again, there's lots of strengths to it. Overall, the systems work together. It is multiplayer solitaire, so things for and against it that may define whether this is a game for you. The pledge levels in this are going to be around $88 for the standard game, and then $122 for the deluxe edition of the game, which is giving you the premium card sleeves, the skill tiles in a tray, and then the character Sweeples, which I think is a cute concept for meeples versus sweet meeples, but I think Sweeples just makes me think of, like, I don't know why, Sweeples makes me think of churches. Is there like a thing in churches called the steeple? It's a steeple. For whatever reason, Sweeple makes me think steeple more than sweet meeple. Either way, that's just my own brain over here. But as far as should you back or should you not, and around shipping's going to run you around $20 in the US, so just factor that in as well. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? In general, their games are hard to get your hands on otherwise, meaning outside of crowdfunding or the secondhand market, it's usually hard to get your hands on their games. The good news is they do reprints generally, so if you are uncertain, you can always wait for a reprint, but other than that, their games generally do hold their value. They put out a lot of games that are well received, and looking at their last several campaigns that they've had, it's not across the board, it's not in every case, but generally their games do sell for what you paid for or more, just because of the generally good games and low availability of those games. Moving on, we have Chateau Gardens, Volatile, Vintage, and Noble Escape. 3 print and play roll and write games, 126 backers, $1,200 raised, 50 hours to go. It's going to give you 3 different games, one in which you're going through a polyomino. So Chateau Garden is going to be a polyomino game where you're competing to draw the optimal arrangement of your polyomino tiles based on the whims of the nobles. We have the Volatile Village, which is going to be an engine builder as you build up your vineyards. And then we have Noble Escape, which challenges you to save the denizens of the chateau by hiding them in carriages, but trying to use their hidden abilities and balance their weights as their heaviest carriage will be pulled over for questioning. That's going to be the 3 core games you have over here. Any one game will run you $3 for a pledge level here. Any 2 games will run you $6. Or if you want all 3 games, you will save $1 and get them all for $8 for all 3 of these print and play games. Same as usual, same thing I said until now. You know, if you play them, then it's actually worth it. If you don't, then it probably isn't. Moving on, we have Family Friends plus Xmas Bundle. This actually has a very interesting campaign over here, and there's a lot of stuff here that might be worth it at a fairly reasonable discount price, in my opinion. But either way, we have 4,000 backers, $4,000 raised, 39 backers, 53 hours to go. This is coming to you from Queen Games. More specifically, I'm not entirely sure what they are. This is Mowgli Distribution, which from what I've looked into seems to be the online shop for Queen Games. So I can't tell if it's like a full-on subsidiary of Queen Games, full ownership, all that, or whether it's like some third party. I can't fully tell on that, but they definitely are heavily associated with Queen Games. So we have another Queen Games campaign over here. This is bringing you Moonlight Market and Dabawala, but these are not the only games here. You can get an absolute ton of Queen Games stuff, and honestly, at what seems to be a fairly reasonable price point, although you will want to factor in shipping because it's not going to be cheap. But over here, we have the core bundle over here is going to be $26 for Moonlight Market. We have $29 for Dabawala. We have $32 for the Santa's Xmas Party Bundle. This, by the way, this trio of games, which is Mowgli's distribution last campaign, seems to be the only things that aren't Queen Games in here, which again has me a little uncertain what's going on here. We have $52 for the Xmas Family and Friends bundles, and then we go up high and higher, $73 for this bundle over here. We have a $404. I'm going to move my camera because it's kind of blocking the exact pledge levels, so sorry about that. I'm going to shift that over a bit. We have the Xmas Gamers Bundle for $104. We have a $209 for the Xmas Big Box Bundle, which, by the way, look at the MSRP savings on some of these, because we have €495 is the total value here based on MSRPs, and you know how I feel about MSRPs, but it doesn't mean they have no meaning at all. It just means take into account you're not getting 60% off, but you are getting a savings on these compared to your other options, and that's only going to go higher and higher. The best one over here is going to be this one. Ignore this one over here. This is just the more expensive, because until they sell out of the 17 left on this early bird Xmas bundle, you're looking at €300 for €900 worth of games based on the MSRPs. Again, MSRPs you want to take into account, although over here we have free shipping to the EU. That's a big deal over there. If you're in the EU, this should be a pledge level you're absolutely looking at for a whole lot of games at a very reasonable price point, and in the US you want to take a look at that as well, discounted shipping, but still just factor all that in. That is a lot of games from Queen Games for what seems to be a very reasonable price point. I can't tell if this is an overstock liquidation or what it is, but this is more than just the two games you see here, so make sure you're paying attention if any of those games are ones you want, because it might actually be worth getting a big box bundle over there. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? It's a way too all over the place to talk about everything. I will say though that the higher pledge levels are giving you a pretty good discounts as far as the actual value of those games, even forgetting MSRPs, the actual values of those games versus the price point. They are giving you pretty good discounts over there, so they may well be worth it on those higher pledge levels. The higher you go, the more you're saving over there. Moving on, we have Tanares Expedition Central C from Dragori Games. 2,091 backers, $426,000 raised, 2 days left to go. Tanares Expedition Central C is a redone version of Tanares Adventures. It takes the core gameplay elements of Tanares Adventures, so if you play Tanares Adventures, the general gameplay mechanics are going to be very familiar to you, but it boxes it into a smaller box point, more affordable pricing. You don't have to get all these miniatures and stuff. It just gives you a much easier way to play this game, not just in price point, not just in table space, but also in game time. You see, you will not be playing through a giant epic long campaign. Rather, you're playing through individual single shot sessions where you're going to sit down and play this game. It might take 2-3 hours, somewhere in that range, maybe 2 to 4 hours, as you go through a quest, which is a series of linked interactions, linked encounters, and you're going to be leveling up after each encounter. This is a roguelite in the sense that you're going to face off a bunch of enemies, take them out, then draw a card to add to your character that's going to give them a new ability. Maybe suddenly whenever they hit crits on a 16 plus instead of a 20 plus. Maybe whenever they move, they deal damage to whoever they end up next to. You're going to have new cards, each deck, each class giving a new type of cards that you're going to get that roguelite element that you're going to be building up your characters as you go across this single, again, 2 to 4 hour session of gameplay. So the goal is to give you Tanares Adventures, but a much more absorbable experience. You can check out my review coverage of it. I think they did a good job in that sense. To me, I still prefer the gameplay of Tanares Adventures over this, but I think this is a very accessible price point, and it gives you strong gameplay from Tanares Adventures for those who don't want to dive heavily into the system, or who aren't going to sit down and table the game. And I get it, honestly, because as much as I love Tanares Adventures, it is a hard one to set up and table, so I get the appeal of, well, any of these options. In any case over here, as far as the pledge levels are going to give you the Tanares Expeditions all-in for $200, not euro, I've been saying euro so much, I've been saying euro now. $200 over here for the all-in over here, giving you the 2 hero packs, each giving you 2 new heroes, the base game, the sleeves, the miniatures, not all the miniatures, some big box miniatures, the player dashboards, all of those, dice, tokens, all of that in the Tanares Expedition all-in. For the core box for $80 over here, that gives you what you need to play the game. If your goal is to just get the most accessible price point and most accessible way to play Tanares Adventures, this is the best way to do so with Tanares Expedition, Central C, core box, done, plain and simple. We have the Sea Explorer, which gives you also the dragon miniature over there, and we have the all-in plus villains miniature kit. This is going to be giving you the miniatures kit for the enemies, so if you want the enemies to have miniatures and not be standees, you can do that for a $250 all-in. As far as your stretch goals, we have stretch goals galore over here. Here's some of the deep dives into the actual things you're going to be getting added to your pledge. So the metal coins, the hero dashboard, the sea dice sleeves, all of that added in. And that's basically what we have over here. There's a lot of page to go through. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? It's hard to say on this one because, again, there's a lot of Tanares content out there, and if you look at the last campaign for Tanares Adventures, in general, it does seem like it mostly holds its value. Generally, what I mean by that is you can see people who sold it for a little bit of a loss, you can see people who sold with their game for more than what they paid for it, but generally it's hovering in that rough range. So maybe you lost shipping, but you got most of your money back. And in general, Tanares Adventures, as the bigger the system grows, and this is generally true for most games, the more the more varied the systems grow, the more different ways there are to dive into it, the harder the secondhand market becomes in general, as people are just trying to get anything, and it's harder and harder to get a full amount of money back, the more complex multiple campaigns, multiple iterations tend to go. This is going to likely fall into some degree of range of that. I think this is likely going to fall into the, you can get most of your money back, possibly not all of it. The $79 price point does make it the most accessible version of Tanares Expeditions, of Tanares Universe, to dive into it and see if it's for you, but it's still not cheap, all things considered. It's just cheaper than their other games have been until now. I think this will likely fall into a similar place where you mostly get your value back, possibly losing in shipping and all of that. Moving on, we have Fable Fury, a cooperative roguelike board game, 4,000 backers, $456,000 raised, 3 days to go. This seems to be giving you a kind of a Munchkin-esque style gameplay, and I don't mean that negatively. I mean that this is targeting the more accessible, easy to play, sorry, I'm a bit under the weather over here, diving into a linked series of 3 quests. Effectively, you're going to be laying out a board over here based on a different foundation. This is meant to be like a horse type shape over here. You're going to be setting up the board over here and then wandering around, going through traps or characters or engagements, trying to find the runes to escape, and then trying to face off against the big bad. Rinse and repeat 3 times as you upgrade your characters, and it's kind of giving you a cross between a dungeon crawler and Munchkin. And again, I don't mean that in a negative way. I haven't played the game, so I can't speak to the game weight, but it does seem to be targeting a bit more either casual or easier to dive into, not leading into people who are interested in reading 40-page rulebooks on how your dungeon interacts, but rather diving straight into hey, we're going to have characters, we're going to level up, we're going to go through a series of linked quests, and have fun together. And I believe it is cooperative from what I've seen of the game. Either way, that's basically what's going on over here. And again, that target audience is going to be not mass market at all, but a bit more casual gameplay as opposed to hardcore gameplay. Not to say it won't necessarily work for you. We have $59 over here for the Fable Fury core game, and then we have $99 giving you the collector's bundle, which is bringing you the collectible coin as well as the extra content. These 3 expansion packs over here, you're getting in that bundle, so that's what you're getting for the extra $40. And then we have $145 giving you absolutely everything: the Fable Fury Enemies Unleashed, the Besties versus Baddies expansion, and the premium metal playing coins as well. And I think that's everything for the all-in over there. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? There's 2 kinds of questions here. The general is, first of all, is this a game for you? And I have a hard time seeing for sure on that, meaning it definitely leans a bit more into the accessibility of the mass market, but I can point to many, many games that have done that are great games for, and I hesitate to use the word for gamers, but what I guess the way I'd say it is, if you're someone who if you're the target audience of games like Tanares Adventures and Oathsworn and Gloomhaven, then will you enjoy a game like this? Because someone's going to enjoy like this. The question is who that person is, and I don't know for sure. It definitely needs to be leaning a bit more towards that accessibility. But there are games that have done that while being very fun and rewarding and engaging, even for hardcore players. And there are games that have done so without being fun and rewarding and engaging for hardcore players. Every time I say Munchkin, no offense intended, generally the more hardcore audience tends to not appreciate Munchkin quite as much, and so that's always a risk factor here. Although again, this being cooperative instead of competitive does seem to improve upon that. But so yeah, as far as whether it's a game for you, hard to say. As far as whether it'll hold its value, my instinct is no. This is the first of 2 campaigns that we talk about today that kind of have this larger audience approach, and you'll see in general this is promoted by Launchboom, which is not a ding on its own, but Launchboom's advertising tends to be a better fit for a certain kind of audience, and their games have not done as well on the secondhand market because you're usually pulling in a lot more gamers, which is good for the hobby overall, but it means you're saturating the market a bit with slightly less savvy buyers, and that means the secondhand market gets a few more things available. So it's hard to say for sure. My instinct is this is one that is less likely to hold its value, but again, because of the intersection of market, these are always slightly harder to say. Moving on, we have Hands in the Sea from Phalanx. Hands in the Sea, 714 backers, 3 days to go. Hands in the Sea, this is the 2nd edition of it, or 3rd edition, I don't really know. This is the newest edition of Hands in the Sea, but Hands in the Sea is effectively A Few Acres of Snow, but tweaked and adjusted. So if you've played A Few Acres of Snow, a game that I very much enjoy from Martin Wallace, they took that game and they basically they made a new version of the game that keeps some of the core mechanics of A Few Acres of Snow while making a very, very vastly different game at the same time. So it's going to have clear similarities, clear overlaps if you've played them, but also giving you new elements to the game, making it slightly longer, which is a downside, but also giving you more things, more stuff, and hopefully more balance, and also no Halifax Hammer strategy, which if you know A Few Acres of Snow, well, you know what I'm talking about there. But anyways, as far as the pledge levels over here, and actually there's a testimonial somewhere that I saw that I really appreciated, because it says, this is a straight-up adaptation of A Few Acres of Snow to the First Punic War, with the only significant addition being introduction of actual fleets. In most cases, I'd probably be appalled by the lack of innovation. However, there was plenty of innovation in the original, and a better implementation was needed, which Hands in the Sea delivers in full. Now, granted, this is a single person's review, but that's kind of how like, if you like A Few Acres of Snow, you'll definitely see that overlap to a point that, again, it might be offensive unless it does a good job, and you're like, oh, that's actually a good job of it. Anyways, over here, as far as the pledge levels, Pledge levels are going to be the two over here. We have €75 for the exclusive pledge, giving you the base game and these miniatures over here, the non-retail set of exclusive miniatures. And then we have the Empire All-In for €119, giving you, if I'm not mistaken, forgive me if I forget the math I had in this, because I did this earlier, but I believe that's roughly $162 worth, €162 worth of content. I mean, if you click on this over here, and you were to add them all separately, I think you're getting €162 worth for €119. So basically, Phalanx is doing the same thing they did in the last campaign, which is they're giving you a very compelling all-in, which brings us to the should you back or should you not, will it hold its value, and that's kind of the question over here. The exclusive pledge on its own, I am more skeptical that it'll hold its value, because you're looking at €75 plus shipping for the newest version of the game, but if you look at the second-hand market on the original Hands in the Sea, and granted, people will want this new version over the old one, but the original one goes for like, anywhere from $30 to $45 in that range, and that means that it's going to be hard to justify paying twice as much for the new version of the game. So I think my instinct is the exclusive pledge for the base version of the game, even though they give you extras, even though they give you the new version, is probably not going to hold its value as much. The all-in, on the other hand, because of the amount of stuff they give you there, assuming you want that stuff, that is going to be a better price point overall, with the caveat assuming you want those things. So similar to the last campaign, I think the holding its value might be true for the all-in, likely not true for the basic options. Moving on, we have SAS Rogue Regiment Operation Gain. 1,300 backers, $114,000 raised, 3 days to go. This game currently rated an 8.8 on Board Game Geek. It's currently on my shelf somewhere in the background. It's one that I backed and want to play, have not had a chance to table, but it very much looked, I mean, this is kind of similar to like the V Commandos and or the original Commandos video game, and the type of gameplay it brings, and that has me very interested, had me very interested since the original campaign, and the 8.8 on Board Game Geek, granted with only a few hundred reviews, does have me very, very interested in the game. This is going to be Rogue Regiment bringing you 3 new things, or really 2 new things and 1 thing in case you missed it the first time round. You see, you're going to have, first things first, you're going to have access to the original game, meaning that black box version of the game is hard to get your hands on, and we'll talk more about value soon, but it's very expensive right now. You can't get that black box easily, so if you want the full black box, Kickstarter exclusive, all that from the last campaign, well, this is your chance to get it. You also have the Operation Gain expansion, which is going to be a big box expansion giving you a 5-part campaign plus 3 standalone bonus missions. So we have over here a campaign version to play the game. And then we have the Allied Assault expansion, which is going to be bringing you more of the stuff. We're going to be in tanks, allied support, new operatives, anti-tank guns, and the mighty Axis Tiger tank. So more content for the game. So effectively this expansion is a reprint. It brings you new content and it brings you a campaign mode all to this game over here. You can check into the game more, but it's basically going to be bringing you commando-style gameplay. You have missions, you're trying to control your characters, take out the various enemies along the way. Overall, looked very compelling. I really want to table it. I was hoping to table it before this campaign launched, because the problem is, well, let's get to the pledge levels. Let's tell you the problem for me personally. We have €35 over here for the veteran. This is the pledge level that just want Operation Gain. We have the Rogue Warrior, which if you want Operation Gain and then the Allied Assault. We have the Back in Black. Okay, this is going to be bringing you content. So if you already have the big black box edition, and you want all the new content that's going to fit nicely into your box, this is going to be the pledge level you're going to want for that. And then we have the Rogue Recruit for €135, $171, and then we have the Complete Black Box for $196, which again is not a cheap amount of money. But over here, this Back in Black is basically $70 over here, plus shipping, so it's around €20 or so around $90 just to get the expansion for this game, which is a lot of money for an expansion, especially for a partial campaign expansion, which I always talk about how I'm overwrought with campaigns, although 5 campaign missions doesn't sound so overwhelming. I never learn. I never learn. Anyways, but over here, Rogue Regiment, so that's what we have going on with the campaign. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Surprisingly, it seems like yes so. Again, the high rating, the low availability, people who bought the original game, their black boxes over there are selling for much more than what people have paid for them. So in general, this is a game that's hard to get your hands on and people seem to want, and it is well rated, which means so far, the black box deluxe edition from Kickstarter seems to have held its value just fine, and that will likely hold true again over here. This very much seems to be one of those hidden gems where not a ton of people know about it, but those that do like it a lot, and that means those that find out about it and miss the campaigns will want to get their hands on the game. Moving on, we have Clans of Caledonia Industria. 7,000 backers, 4 days to go, $461,000. This is an expansion, a modular expansion to Clans of Caledonia, a very, very popular game. I think it's currently ranked like 68, 69 in the BGG top 100. It's a very well-liked Euro game from Juma Al-Juju. Over here, this is the founder of Karma Games, but Clans of Caledonia, very popular game, very hard to get your hands on right now, by the way. It's out of print. You can see copies on eBay for $100, on the BGG Marketplace for like $70, or you can go ahead and buy a new copy of the expansion right here for $41 plus shipping. Shipping running, I believe, is around $20 if I'm not mistaken. I think it's $20 no matter how much you get. Let's see if we can find here. I don't want to open the shipping table, but I'm going to do it. I think it was €18 over here for any amount of content, for any amount of games. Was it any amount? I mean, just because I said that, I want to be careful. Number of game boxes, no, they have a tier price, okay? Tier price point over here, 18, then 21, then 27, so it is going up in price point, and that's relevant, by the way, before we even get to this campaign. Right now, they're doing a thing where they've had several campaigns that they're all bundling them into combined shipping. So they've run a bunch of campaigns already for Thiefdom, for Peninsula, for Millennia, Tracks of Time. So if you want any of their games, they basically have price point for what you're paying for any number of games to lower your barrier to entry of getting a bunch of their campaigns. So that's worth noting. You can get prior campaigns and bundle all the shipping together. But again, it's going to run you around $60 or so to go ahead and get your hands on shipping of this game, plus the base game, which is already cheaper than the current availability of the game. And then, of course, the main reason you're here, probably, maybe, I don't know, is going to be Industria, which I guess we can check. We have 3,867 people who want the expansion, 174 want the base game, and 2,655 who want both. So it's actually a little more divided than I would have thought, although it is not surprising that 174 people want the base game. Like, if you're here already, you probably want at least the expansion. The question is whether you want the base too. But either way, Clans of Caledonia, Industria is going to be bringing you a modular approach to the expanded content, bringing, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like 11 new modules to the game. We have the expansion, the base, that's the MSRPs and all that stuff. We have modules. We have a train map, a full train map. We have deliveries, milestones, a contract refill board, awards, the farmer's market, and an automata over here. And that's not 11 over there, but it does say mix and match all 11 modules as you like. Oh, the gameplay modules. Oh, I think they used the term, no, that was something else. Something else used that. I'm blanking. Some other campaign we'll talk about today uses the term modules to describe something else. I think it was Galaxy, what's it called? Galaxy Postman. Anyways, over here, so we have the gameplay modules, so mix and match all of the modules as you like, bringing you more expanded content to Clans of Caledonia Industria. There's a small chance I'll have a gameplay for you before the end of the campaign. If it does happen, it's probably going to go up Thursday, so we'll see what happens over there, but I'm trying. But we'll see. I might have something for you by the end of the campaign. As far as should you back, just should you not, will hold its value. The short answer is for right now, kind of yes. Clans of Caledonia is a well-liked game with very limited availability, and that means that this is the best way to get your hands on the game right now. And assuming it goes through those arcs and waves in the future again, this will likely be one that does overall hold its value. The price point seems reasonable enough, especially if you're getting multiple games, you're saving on shipping, and it's a well-liked, very popular game that historically has been very hard to get your hands on. Moving on, we have Devil's Dice, game of bluffing, chance, and summoning. I will say, by the way, after last week's Two Back Not To Back, where I'm like, hey, barely anything is going to hold its value, it's nice to have several that are like, actually potentially worth backing. Devil's Dice, a game of bluffing, chance, and summoning. 122 backers, 6 days to go, $5,738 raised in Devil's Dice. This is a cross between Coup and Liar's Dice. And the best part about that is as I was going through the campaign page and going through the game, I was like, this feels like a cross between Coup and Liar's Dice. And then when he gets down to the end, he's like, I was inspired to make this game because I like Coup and Liar's Dice. And I was like, good job, you capture that perfectly. The basic idea is it has that Liar's Dice element where you can kind of do what you want based on bluffing. You can be rolling dice and then taking actions, and you can kind of say what you want and do what you want, but if other players call you on it, there's a penalty to that. So, well, it depends. The penalty if they're wrong, the penalty to you if they're right. So it kind of combines the elements of Liar's Dice, where you can say what you want about the dice that are under your cup, but it combines the element of Coup, where you're kind of doing things based on what your actions you have available to you, but in this case, it's the dice. So it very much combines those two games together in Devil's Dice, Lie or Die. So gameplay-wise, if you like Liar's Dice and Coup, or either one of those games, this might appeal to you. Price point-wise, the game is coming in at $29, which unfortunately puts it less competitive to those games. Shipping is going to add to the cost as well, another $8 on top of that. So you are looking at a much more expensive version of Coup or Liar's Dice. You can get Liar's Dice and Coup together and still pay less than this game is. Again, that's the price of being a small publisher, but that does mean as far as should you back or should you not, this game may well be appealing, might be different, might be interesting. It will likely be hard to get your hands on it. If you're looking for the best version to support over there, well, aside from just choosing to support the publisher, it may well be hard to get your hands on it, but it is expensive, and I think it's less likely to hold its value. Moving on, we have Royal Hospital, 16,000 euro raised, 236 backers, 7 days left to go. Royal Hospital brings you a Terraforming Mars-esque style gameplay in terms of multiple tracks as you try to go up the tracks, playing cards across 6 rounds of play, trying to figure out what combination of cards will ascend you to the top of the tracks most efficiently, more so than the other players. There's gameplay content on the channel, there's review, preview, we actually have a lot of content on this game for you, but in general, the game itself is going to be, I kind of said it, so across 6 rounds of play, you're going to be playing cards and using those cards to move up a ton of tracks. You can see on the board over here, there's a lot of different tracks over here. There's insurance tracks, there's going to be your money tracks, your income tracks, and you try to bump up all of those tracks as efficiently as possible through the cards you play across 6 rounds. Along the way, you're going to be dealing with patience. You have to make sure to manage your healing, manage your administrative, resources in order to go ahead and actually deal with diagnose the patients, and then heal the patients, and try to get as many points as possible in the game. Pledge level is going to be fairly straightforward. You have €55 for the base game over here, and shipping is going to run you around where shipping was somewhere. shipping is over here. Shipping is going to run you around €17, which means you are looking at around €75, around 85-ish, $90 for the game, which is going to be the biggest downside over there. I just think price point wise, that just puts this game at a higher price point than what people are going to pay. Like when you say things like Terraforming Mars-esque style game, you're inherently comparing it to Terraforming Mars, which you can get at a much cheaper price point. I do think this, and with only 236 backers, I think this is one that will be less likely to hold its value. Moving on to Galaxy Postman Reprint and New Expansion, €30,000 raise, 350 backers, 7 days left to go. Galaxy Postman brings you a reprint of Galaxy Postman, which is basically a pick up and deliver style game where you're going to be upgrading a ship, wandering around the galaxy, and trying to get as many points as possible as a Galaxy Postman. And the expansion is going to introduce you, well, new gameplay content, new modules. Let's see if we can scroll down and find them for you. We have the Galaxy Postman, a space adventure, the Overdrive modules. So you're going to have a new alien race over here. Let's see, where's the stuff? Where's the stuff? We're going to have, where's the new content? Why back now? No, what's in the box? What's new? Is this, where's the new stuff? I had like a thing. They had a thing. I didn't have a thing. They had a thing. They had a thing covering the new stuff. Is it over here? Yes, over here. Here we go. Interstellar modules include... No, this is not the new stuff. This is not the new stuff. Here's the new stuff. Overdrive modules include. This is the new stuff. We have a new alien module. We have the Pirate Bay Galaxy tile. We have the Casino Galaxy tile. And we have the personal missions, 8 personal missions, as well as the space bonds. This is going to be the new content for the game. Pledge levels are going to give you a few options. We have the basic core game for €50. We have the returning Postman for €20. And we have the Galaxy Black Hole for €120 if you want the all-in. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, honestly, hard to say. The game delivered, but I can't find a single copy for sale or having been sold on either on eBay. I think there's one person who's trying to sell a copy, maybe. I haven't sold any sold options for the game on eBay or on the secondhand market, which means that right now it's just a less availability. So as far as will it hold its value, I'm skeptical it will. I think at the price point, I said the same thing the first campaign. I think the price point for the content versus the general market, I'm skeptical it holds its value, but at least right now we are seeing that it's hard to get your hands on, which I do focus on those two things. Sometimes it's about will it hold its value. Other times, if you can't find a copy, you can't find a copy, and at least as of right now, you can't find a copy. So I would say if you want to support the publisher, go ahead. If you are worried about limited availability, go ahead. If you do think it will hold its value, I'm skeptical it will. Moving on, we have Lore 2nd Edition, 700 backers, 8 days to go, $33,000 raised. This is the 2nd edition to Lore, a game that already came out. This is going to be bringing you tweaks and gameplay changes, so if you didn't like Lore, you should go ahead and make sure to pay attention to the FAQ of covering what's the difference between the 1st and 2nd edition. They give you all of this. This is going to be much more meaningful if you're concerned either about the reviews for the 1st edition or if you have the 2nd edition. Otherwise, this is going to be a lot of stuff that kind of tells you the differences to a game you don't know about. But past that, the basic idea of the game is you're going to be playing across 3 rounds of play. In each round, you're taking 4 actions, 4 days. You're going to be choosing different actions as far as the things you're going to be doing as you quest your character, face off against monsters, things like that, all while upgrading your characters throughout the game. You have, your actions. Choose one of 4 actions. Duel a monster, hunt for treasure, uncover lore, visit the merchant if you're in a settlement, and then dealing with events. If you're in a location that matches the time of day, you'll encounter an event or a location or whatever it is, and that's basically what's going on in Lore. 3 rounds of play, 4 actions per round, 12 things total you're doing, and seeing how your character progresses in the game. We have 2 main pledge levels over here. We have $34 for the returning backer pledge. This is basically giving you a 2nd edition of the game to the 1st edition backers, seemingly with the goal of just not making much money, if at all, but they're basically only for backers of the 1st edition. So only back that. They're going to cross-check your email, but if you back the 1st edition, they're like, hey, I know we have a 2nd edition, I know it sucks, but at least we can give it to you at a cheaper price point because you helped support us and bring us here. Or alternatively, if you're new to the system, you're going to be over here at the Lore 2nd edition for $60 for a game of Lore 2nd edition. And I will say it is a little hard to see it over here because right now we have 70 backers, 80 backers on the Lore 2nd edition, although I guess granted you have the early backer pledge. Interesting, you have the early backer pledge, so we do have 329 backers over here, so I guess that's where the bulk of the new backers are, so that's better. I missed that the first time around. But either way, as far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Judging by the 1st edition, I'm skeptical it will. Granted, the 2nd edition specifically aimed to address the complaints of the 1st one. The 1st edition comes in at a reasonable 7.1. Not a great game, not a bad game, overall pretty decent, although it does seem to be very much split on the target market. I think the biggest complaints seem to be about the game not being heavy enough, so if that's not what you care about, you may find yourself being one of the people who gave it an 8 or a 9 or something like that, as opposed to one of the people who came in at a lower rating because it wasn't the weight class that they wanted. Although again, make sure to pay attention to the FAQ and the changes between the 1st and the 2nd edition to see if those might make it more or less a game for you. But overall, the 2nd edition was rated both decently but not amazingly, but also didn't really do a great job holding its value, copies being sold for much less than what they paid for it, and I imagine that will hold true the 2nd time round, so I think this is one that is less likely to hold its value. Moving on, Sea Beast, Vikings vs. Beasts, Ocean Crawler Co-op. 3,756 backers, 9 days to go, $465,000 raised. This one doing incredibly well over here, coming to you from Littlest Lantern, the creator of Sea Beast, found us a Little Lantern, all that. This is a mission game that has both single-shot gameplay as well as campaign gameplay. So you can kind of tackle it both ways as you level up across multiple games, or as you play a single game that can last some 15 to 45 minutes, giving you single shot missions where you're going on these adventures, moving across the sea, charting your pathways, being faced off against these various monsters, and then having a chance to deal with your Vikings attack before you rinse and repeat the cycle again and again, while powering up for your blood rage along the way. So basically the sea beasts, they're attacking you. You're trying to survive the voyage, and then you're doing that either in a single shot or in a full campaign. There's several pledge levels over here. There's a basic pledge for $49. We have the heroic pledge for $99, which gives you a lot more content. You can get a better sense of it if you go to the pledge levels over here along the side. $49 for the Sea Beast Bloody Voyage, and then we have all this other content being added to $99 on $130 MSRP, so 25% off. Again, see my usual notes on MSRP, but the main thing with MSRP is that at the end of the day, so if you look at the basic pledge, you're like, hey, $49 on a $65 MSRP, you're not really saving much, and you're actually paying more in shipping than the savings, which means it'll be cheaper at retail. Just get the game at retail if you're looking at the basic pledge. But once you start going higher up, you start getting to the Kickstarter exclusive content, so even though the MSRP savings is not great either, you're looking at exclusive content, so the MSRP doesn't really matter at that point. It's a fictional number if it's not actually being sold at retail. We have the Legendary Pledge, giving you the most content for the most savings, but again, MSRP is less the point here. At this point, you start getting into more exclusive content, which both those higher pledges have. As far as whether you care about that content, there's a lot of content at both these pledge levels. You're going to want to look through them and see what you care about, what you're getting out of it, or whether you're just fine waiting for retail and getting your hands on a basic copy of the game there. Keep in mind, the basic game does come, I believe, does the basic game come with the campaign? I believe it does. I might be mistaken. I thought, let me just scroll through here. The board game, 25-hour campaign. Yes. The basic pledge does have the campaign included as well, in case you weren't sure about that. I thought it did, but I wasn't certain, so I was trying to double check. But that's what we have for Sea Beast over here. Sorry, should you back or should you not, will hold its value. Again, a little hard to say. This is one that definitely, again, it's put by Launch Boom, hitting that new audience, which means this definitely is a campaign that's doing very well. I think this leans a bit more into your typical gamer audience, which means I think it has a slightly better chance of overall holding its value, but you're still looking at a decent amount of money for the game. But there's a lot of popularity here. I definitely put this in the maybe category. Like, I can see it doing fine in the secondhand market. I can see it not doing fine. This is one of those campaigns. There's always one or two of these here and there, but this is one of those where I don't have a strong opinion either way. I would definitely put it in the risk category. It might hold its value. It might not. I see reasons both ways in this one, and I have a hard time committing to one opinion over the other. So definitely just put it as a risk. It might hold its value. It might not. Moving on, we have World Order. $6,700 backers, $675,000 raised. I think we have two more campaigns to go after this. Two more campaigns to go. $6,700 backers, $676,000 raised, 10 days to go. Coming to you from Hegemonic Project Games, we have World Order, a new game that's going to be continuing their line of giving you very not just well done games, but like not just thematic games, not just well done games, but games that are almost interlaced with how economies or simulations work. So they're honestly, like, they call it the Ultimate International Relations Simulator. They have a little bit more of that. Now, it's not going to be a full simulator in a typical sense, but they definitely like to lean a bit more into like how can we be educational as well as putting out good games, which they knocked out of the park on the two games that they've done so far, Hegemony and World Order. Granted, not everyone's had a chance to play World Order, but if you had a chance to play, I think this is definitely going to deliver for those of you who liked Hegemony. But over here, we have the pledge levels is going to be 55 euro, around $58 for the Emerging Power basic pledge. We have $74, the Regional Power gameplay pledge, giving you additional content over here. What are you getting extra? You're getting the main game, the concepts, you're getting the soft cover. What are you getting? The World and Turmoil expansion. That's what you're getting over here for $74. And then for $131, you're also getting the miniature pack, and the metal coins are being added on as well. So it depends if you care about the miniatures and the metal coins to add that further immersion to your gameplay. But over here, the basic game is going to be, you can play across 6 rounds of play, and you're going to be scoring after round 3 and after round 6, and you're trying to take control of the various regions of the board through either military taking control, either negotiations and diplomacy, or alternatively economy. You're trying to figure out the different ways you can take control of different regions of the board. But all that's going to be supported by using your diplomacy to improve your relations with various countries, which are all going to power up your actions. So all these countries you're taking a hold of, those will be how you get a military presence, how you take advantage of diplomacy, how you take advantage of an economic presence. You're trying to build up those diplomatic relations with all these countries, and then using that to take control and get a presence in the various continents, so that ultimately you are the ultimate world power. It's going to be using that through a combination of area control and deck building as the main mechanics across those 6 rounds of play. It's going to be a longer game, which is my biggest complaint with it. It's definitely going to be not a short game, but I think it's more accessible than Hegemony, and for me personally, it's a better game in terms of the gameplay styling being I like deck building, I like area control, and so those are going to be my preference there. But as far as, and then shipping as well, by the way, shipping's going to run you anywhere from, if you're in the United States, €20 to €30, depending on the pledge level, and then obviously your own region checkout as well. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? Again, always a little tricky, but I will say if you look at the original hegemony definitely did do an overall good job holding its value on the exclusive content for the game, not exclusive, on the pledge levels for the game. The original hegemony did a good job holding its value. I think that will likely hold true here as well. Currently, it's not doing as well as hegemony, but we still have 10 days to go. It may well hit close to hegemony, or basically either, I think it'll be right around hegemony as far as where this ends up, close to it, a little bit before, a little bit after, a little behind, but overall it's still doing incredibly well, and I think this is a very good game that will do well on the second-hand market as well. Just because, again, the first one did, and it's a good game, so I think this is one that will likely be not necessarily one where you get more of your money back, but if you find this game that's not for you, it likely will mostly hold its value. Moving on to Onoda from Salt and Pepper Games, 1,400 backers, 9 days left to go, €48,000 raised so far. Onoda is going to be a solo game based on the legacy of Hiro Onoda, who basically refused to believe that the war ended and spent 30 years in the jungle going on various operations that for a war that didn't exist anymore. So that's what you can do in this solo game over here. You're basically go through 6 rounds of drawing missions, figuring out what your missions are, and then taking actions as you wander around the map. The problem is everything you do in the game is going to result in you putting alarm tokens down on the board, and when you're trying to make tests, you're making tests based on these alarm tokens. So you really have to try to figure out what is necessary for you to do, because it's going to make your life harder, but also essential to making life easier while you try to ultimately test against these tokens. So it's a little bit of push your luck, a little bit of action economy, all built into the solo game that so far seems to be getting pretty decent praise. The pledge level is going to be €22 for the base game over here, and then €30 for the base game plus the miniatures pack, which will be exclusive. I believe it's exclusive, or at least very limited. I think it said somewhere exclusive. I need to see if I can find that. Game Find exclusive. These minis will never make their way to retail for €10 plus taxes over there. Shipping is going to be over here. We're going to be looking at around USA is going to be €14 or €22 if you want to get the 3-pack over there. That's going to add heavily to the cost, which brings us to the Should You Back It, which actually has changed a little bit on Salt and Pepper Games. You see, originally Salt and Pepper Games constantly had their games available through 25th Century, and so I used to say, because it used to be this way, that hey, you can get their games, and I think that if you have limited access, it's a great way to get your games, but otherwise you can wait for retail and get their games. The price point of having a cheaper game, where if the game costs €22 and shipping is €14, you could just get it at shipping at retail and it will be cheaper. And so that's generally true. And while that's still mostly true-ish, it does seem with the recent campaigns they've been holding off. Like they're saying you won't get this game until a year later. So if you want the game now, you can get it now, or you have to wait a full year later until when you get it later. And that's gonna be true if you look at some of their last releases. I don't know the behind the scenes of the relationship with 21st Century and if that's still active, but it does seem like their more recent campaigns have had lower availability, and the second-hand market has been more favorable to those games because of it. So in general, the games are landing. You don't have access to get their games, and their games generally are pretty good. So until now, the biggest reason not to back has been they're putting out good games that are cheaper at retail, and now it seems like that retail availability is either delayed or less present. So again, things can always change. So the problem of trying to predict the future based on how things have been in the past. Because in some of the campaigns, I was like, hey, wait till retail, and now it's like, oh no, it's only available in the second-hand market for $30 more than what you paid for it. So they have held their value, but that's seemingly because of the retail delay that's currently in place. So again, I don't know fully what's going to be happening with them, but it does seem like there's a shift and more of a reason to back now if you're interested, because your alternative might be the second-hand market, which has been better recently, or alternatively waiting a year for that retail presence. So up to you, although honestly, most of us can probably afford to wait without having to be that big a deal, but I don't know for sure if it's coming down the road. I'm just going with what I'm seeing on the pages. Over here, lastly, we have Rabbit's Potion, another print-to-play roll right. 242 backers, 11 days to go, €3,000 raise, coming to you from Radak Ignash. Again, I can't pronounce the name, I apologize. He's had several crowdfunding campaigns. He's done a whole bunch of these little print-to-play roll rights, I believe starting with Island Alone, if I'm not mistaken, but he's had Space Alone, Night, Roll 'em Meow, Monster Kill. He's had a bunch of print-to-play roll rights, and now he has Rabbit's Potion, a very thinky game about making potions, basically. That's kind of what we got over here. Pledge levels are going to be over here for a €5 for the core game, and then the all-in for the 3 maps, workshop card, 12 times order cards, a whole bunch more stuff for the all-in. Same general format of print-to-play roll rights. You get a little bit for €5, you get a bunch more for more, continuing that trend in this game. I'm not going to talk heavily about the game. Same thing as usually said. If you back these and play them, it's well worth it. If you don't, a little bit less so. And with that, we have covered all the campaigns we're going to be covering today, which means it's time for our picks of the week. In general, I do 2 picks of the week, a game that I am most personally interested in and a game that I think is most likely to hold its value, and I'm happy to say we actually have several that could hold their value this week. So starting with the one that I'm most personally interested in, though, I am going to go with SAS Rogue Regiment. I will say usually the one I pick as the most personally interested in usually is one that I've actually played. In this case, I haven't played it, but it really does seem like my kind of game. Like, I'm tempted to spend that $70 to get the just expanded attention for my game, but I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try to have self-control, and I'm going to possibly try to do like a dollar pledge or whatever it is, or just wait and check out the pledge manager later. I'll set a little reminder, but I do want to play the game first and make sure I enjoy it before I spend more money on it. I'm trying to be better about those kinds of things, but either way, SAS Rogue Regiment is my personal interest pick of the week. As far as the game that I think is most likely to hold its value, I'm going to go with Clans of Caledonia Industria for that one. There are several decent picks that could be in this category, and the trickiest one over here is trying to figure out whether there will be a retail presence down the road. Again, right now you just can't get your hands on the game without the secondary market and paying more for it. I don't know how true that's going to hold down the road, but I do know this game has frequently across the course of its lifetime been in between print runs and not had availability, so I'm going to guess that this one is likely going to hold true as well going forward. Again, it's never a guarantee, but I think this is the one that is most likely to hold this value overall. As far as upcoming campaigns next week, we don't have a lot of exciting things launching. The two I have over here is we have Mighty Shot from This Is a Game for 915 people following the campaign, bringing you a head-to-head, beautiful miniatures, head-to-head gameplay, a little bit of dexterity action launching soon. And then we also have over here, we also have Last Aurora Frostlands and Firelands, which is apparently live. I thought this was launching tomorrow. This may have just launched. Whoops. This is launching today. I thought it was launching tomorrow. So this is a live campaign. Anyways, Lost Aurora Frostlands and Firelands. That apparently just launched. You can check this out instead. I thought it was launching tomorrow. That's basically what we have. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. What are the opposite of ladyfingers? Mentos.